Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the pure ranking dungeon that is coming to North America on Monday. So, on Monday, November 19th, will mark the beginning of a triple ranking dungeon 3-week series. So essentially, for the next 3 weeks, for 1 week each, we will be having different ranking dungeons that are featuring the 3 puppeteers. So, it's a great chance to obviously acquire those puppeteers for free, as well as giving yourself a nice crown if you're able to score high enough. So for the pure ranking dungeon, I will be discussing the general tips and strategies that will be used to achieve a successful score, and for each subsequent ranking dungeon there will be an article released ahead of their actual debut. So as with any ranking dungeon, we are scored based on the following criteria. Each combo made, or basically your average combo, is worth 5,000 points. Each second remaining is worth 500. So basically 10 seconds is the same equivalent as an average combo. Hitting 40 million damage is 10,000 points. And then for every active skill used to kill a floor, basically no combo made, like either using true damage or something along those lines, is minus 5,000 points. Now, due to the fact that the Pure Torment has 7 floors, each combo is reasonably valuable. It's got basically 5,000 divided by 7 floors is 714 points per combo. However, as with any ranking dungeon, if we are able to button our way through a particular floor, it actually will raise the value of every combo made because, well, in theory, you have less floors to deal with. So basically, if you button one floor in the pure ranking dungeon, it becomes 5,000 divided by 8, which becomes 833. And then we can obviously bolster our combo count further by using 7x6 leaders. Now, for the Pure Torment, there's an interesting clause to it. It is a no awakenings ranking dungeon. So this is interesting because now we don't have skill boost, 7 combo awakenings, so on and so forth. So we're gonna have to rely on the attack stat of our cards as well as the leader skills from our 2 leaders. So this is, I guess, a bit more of a fair ranking dungeon because for the most part, the team compositions you can use, many of the cards are farmable. So this obviously gives hope to more players out there. So because we don't have skill boosts, we only have a smaller pool of active skills to really draw from. And in theory, we cannot have any active skill that lasts that takes longer than 6 turns to charge up. Because when you think about it, with a 7-floor dungeon, you combo floors 1 through 6, you get 6 turns of charging up. So when you hit the boss, you need to be able to use an active skill that is 6 or less turns. So that's something to keep in the back of our head. But some truly noteworthy standout active skills we can use are the farmable formula. And formula is going to be incredibly valuable because it will allow us to button through floor 6, which will raise the value of each average combo made throughout the dungeon because now it's 6 instead of a 7-floor dungeon, so to speak. So that is meaningful. But that means we only can use active skills that have a 5-turn cooldown because we're having 1 less floor to actually combo, and therefore there's no charging up because we're not actually comboing on that floor. Now, if you are using formula, you will not be able to use Merlin Rider, but Merlin Rider will give you a very tasty board because the final floor will spawn hazards, and Marine Rider will get rid of those hazards while also making you fire and water orbs at the same time. So it's going to make it easier to max combo the board because you're dealing with less elements in total. However, unless you're running the skill boost badge, you can't use formula and Merlin Rider at the same time. However, Merlin Rider may not be the most practical choice for the average player. There are some wonderful farmable options. We have Cthulhu, and that is from Cosmic Trinity Annihilation. He can be a 5-turn cooldown. He will convert all of the hazards to water, which will help ensure you hit your damage cap, so that is important. And then Siegfried is also valuable. It's just a vanilla 5-turn heart to water orb changer. Now, why am I using water? Well, it's because on the final floor is Pure, who is red. So that's the easiest way to hit damage cap. So the subs we want to use are basically either formula and or the active skills we actually want to bring in the dungeon. And other than that, are going to be our highest attack stat water cards possible. We don't care what their active skills are or awakenings because they're not going to be used. So basically, we're going to be bringing something like, say, Yao Yu from a previous ranking dungeon reward as our sub because he has one of the highest attack stats for water in the game. And basically just sort through your monster box and find whoever has the highest attack stat and throw them on your team. So for the case of myself, I would be using formula, maybe something like Siegfried, let's say. I would also use my Yao Yu and Ryune because they have high attack stat and they're water based. So we got our subs covered. Now, the type of leaders we want to use are something that gives 7x6 and something that scales with combo count. So the nice thing about 7x6 leaders is that you don't actually have to own one yourself. You can piggyback off of a friend and then pair it with your own combo-based leader. So generally speaking, Diablos is probably going to be the most universally accessible and or desirable leader to use because he's got a great attack multiplier at 8.5 times for 8 combos. He gives 7x6. Again, you can piggyback off a friend. In theory, we can also use Joyra. Joyra will have much greater potential to hit damage cap on the boss because she is water, not green. And she also has a slightly higher attack multiplier compared to Diablos. But the only drawback is you need water and fire all the time. So that could become an issue on the earlier floors where you're not guaranteed to have those colors all the time. So it is possible you run into some problems running Joyra. In terms of the combo-based leader we want to use, Dark Ideal is going to be most likely the ideal choice because she has a high scaling multiplier and she also gives built-in time extend. Because remember, when we don't have awakenings, we don't have our extra time extend awakenings and movement time. So with Ideal, we get plus 3 seconds, so our 5 base plus Ideal's 3 is 8. If we use the solo mode badge of time extend, we can have 10 seconds. With 10 seconds, we should have enough time at that point to fully maximize and combo out of board, so Dark Ideal is going to usually be the best choice. Unfortunately, it means you have to either have Ideal or Diablos or some other 7x6, so that can be a little problematic. On the other hand, you can definitely use something like Anubis because you are using active skills at the end, so you will easily hit damage cap as well. You just have less orb movement time. Blue Hunter is another option as well. Not so amazing, but hey, it's at least blue, so he does have some contribution on the boss for damage capping. The solo mode badge we want to use in the vast majority of cases will be time extend because if we are able to make more combos in a given period of time, we are going to score higher. Just the way if we're planning to use formula and have a 6 floor layout essentially because you're buttoning one of those. So using time extend is going to be the choice in the vast majority of situations. However, with that being said, if players are wanting to really use Formula and Merlin Rider, because I feel that Merlin Rider will give you a much higher combo count board at the end, it can be useful to run the skill boost badge. That way you can use Formula and Merlin Rider at the same time, resulting in the highest combo count possible at the end. With that in mind, you have to remember you're going to have less movement time, which may or may not be a problem depending on what types of leaders you can bring. Maybe you get to bring a Dark Ideal in some way. You could get away with using the skill boost badge because you'll have at least 8 seconds still, so that might be enough time. So it can be something exciting to keep in mind. Now, using blank sub slots. So the idea of using a blank sub slot is that in ranking dungeons, obviously you want to finish as fast as possible. And one way to finish faster is have less animation time. And that's why we want to use active skills that have no secondary effects. Like haste in theory is slower than something that does not have haste unless you needed the haste for a particular reason. So with that in mind, if we actually have an empty subslot, their damage animation does not take effect because it's empty. So in theory, we are saving a tiny amount of time. So this is obviously kind of a min-maxy sort of situation, but it can make a difference for those players who are on the cusp of crowning or achieving a new threshold score that they never have. So by losing out one subslot, you can in theory increase your clear time speed by a little bit. But the problem is in this dungeon here, we are struggling to hit damage cap. So it may be challenging to actually justify using a blank subslot if we're not hitting damage cap. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Am I hitting damage cap? Yes or no? If yes, maybe I'll use a blank subslot. Sample team. So this is kind of just a sample team I just kind of thought of, and it's going to be pretty similar to what most people are going to be running. We're going to be using like a Diablos 7x6. We'll use Cthulhu because it's farmable. We'll use Formula, another farmable. Yao Yu is technically farmable as well if you played the earlier ranking dungeons. And Ryune is just something I had in my box that has very high attack stat and is water based. So again, like your inherits are going to be your stat transfers just to get a little bit more damage out of the water based cards. But other than that, there's not much else to really say. Like it's kind of a straightforward, just combo, combo, combo ranking style dungeon, which is reasonable overall. Now, these ranking dungeon charts are compiled by Panda, who's a wonderful individual in the PAD community. And basically, I will be using his charts with his permission, of course, to kind of help keep track of the scores as they come along. There'll be a separate article which just has the scores pinned to the top. It'll be updated every day that we actually have a score coming in. So we can use these as kind of like rough guidelines or templates as what we can expect from the ranking dungeon. Now, we don't always follow Japan all the time, but generally speaking, for fixed team dungeons, we have no real advantage by being delayed, but for non-fixed team dungeons like this one here, we have a bit of a competitive edge because we get to see the ideal team compositions on day one right away, which means we are able to potentially do better because we have more days to try using these optimal teams. Again, use these point graphs as just a general point of reference. So, in conclusion, this pure ranking dungeon is much more exciting compared to the previous one, mostly because it's less RNG based in the sense that you don't have to have these crazy luxurious cards to succeed, and it should be more accessible overall. Let me know what you think about this dungeon in the comments below and the type of team composition you plan on running. Hopefully all the Mantastic day. I wish you all the best of luck in your own pet adventures, and happy puzzling.